I just wanted to jump on here again today because this is such a powerful time in the work of the body and, you know, nutrition and naturopathy. So it's really important to catch this time and really understand it fully. And this is really so that we can move into autumn without getting these colds, or as much as possible not get these colds and flus and lots of viral activity into autumn. So what I want to explain is we've got, again, which I said yesterday, but I want to repeat it, is that you have the autumn equinox on the 22nd of September. So it varies between the 20th to the 22nd of September. This year it is on Tuesday. Today we have a new moon. It's a Virgo new moon, so let me break that down for you. A new moon represents a good feeling in the body because it represents an abundance of negative ions. Negative ions are very positive. You get negative ions from the surface of the earth, so barefoot on the grass. And so usually, typically on a new moon, you feel pretty good. Your energy's pretty good. The problem is we have the autumn equinox on Tuesday. So what you're probably finding is you don't feel that great. So I'm going to come into some of the symptoms you might be experiencing because of this powerful energetic shift that occurs whenever you have a seasonal changeover. But particularly spring equinox and autumn equinox are the most powerful ones. Autumn equinox slightly less powerful than the spring equinox, but nevertheless, but both very powerful. Okay, so you should ideally, if it was just a Virgo new moon or just a new moon, and we didn't have the autumn equinox around the corner, you might be feeling quite good today. So the new moon represents the beginning of a new cycle, new beginnings, releasing of the old. And with it being a Virgo new moon, you're really looking at the Virgo sign is very much about decluttering, organization, order, structure, analysing the details. So you might be feeling at the moment you're wanting to give your house a spring clean or an autumn clean or getting ready for autumn. You might be wanting to start filing and doing your tax returns. You're getting into the details. Maybe you're starting a new course or doing a different aspect of your work, and you'll be wanting to get into the details and really sorting that out. So Virgo is a really earthy, well, it is an earth sign. So maybe that's the sensation you're having. You're wanting to dig in, start new projects and really get into the detail of those. So that's the Virgo aspect. The new moon is the very positive aspect of a new cycle with an abundance of negative ions, as I said. Really, really good, really nice. But we have the autumn equinox around the corner. So you may be experiencing a number of different things. Now, what happens with an equinox is that you get a flip of your lymphatic system. So let me explain about the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is a whole sequence of, it's almost like your circulatory system in the sense that it has lots of glands and pathways, and what it's responsible for is really, to put it very simply, to clear your gunk, so to clear your toxic load. And the problem we have is when we're going through a big shift like this, so a seasonal shift like the autumn equinox, is that if we're carrying a little bit of an extra toxic load, if we're a little bit dehydrated, if we're a bit stressed out, you know, a combination of different factors, then the lymph within the lymphatic system is a bit stagnant. It gets a bit stagnant and a bit sludgy. And that can give rise, whenever you have a powerful universal change, like the seasonal change, a powerful energetic shift, it can really give rise to a few issues around lymph. So let's talk about lymph in terms of other words. Lymph is also mucus, which you can feel in the back of your throat sometimes when you're getting a bit sludgy and gunky. You also get mucus in your bowel. When your bowel's a little bit inflamed, your body will produce mucus, which is lymph, to kind of protect the sides of the bowel, really. So it sort of creates a film around the stools. You'll see when you pass the stools that they almost look like they've got a film on them. And the more dairy you're eating, the more junk, the more processed food you eat, the more mucus you produce. So the mucus is a little bit troublesome in the system. Like I say, it can sit at the back of the throat, it can line the digestive tract and just make things a little bit more awkward. The other lymph that we often don't think about is earwax. So that's another offshoot of lymph in the body. So the way that you can tell if your lymph is a bit gunky is you might produce excessive earwax. You might even, at this time of the year, be starting to feel some irritation. I've got slight irritation in my left ear, where you may produce more earwax, or it just seems a bit out of sorts. You may have a sore throat. So when we think of sore throats, that's a clear indication about your lymphatic system just struggling a little bit with the toxic load. So think of these glands. You've got these big glands here. And what you can do, which I'm doing just now, is jig. This is an old naturopathic technique. So you're just drawing a line from the bottom of your ear down to these glands here. And I can feel mine is slightly swollen. So maybe you want to have a look, have a feel, and jig. And so what the difference is between the lymphatic system and the circulatory system is the circulatory system has a pump. The lymphatic system has no pump. The lymphatic system basically follows the circulatory system. So what really benefits and helps us at this particular change over time is to really be working on our lymphatic system to help it to shift its gunk. So any form of movement, any form of exercise, hot and cold, so things like sea swimming, hot and cold showering. So you would start with a nice warm shower, get it nice and hot, and then do your blast of cold, and then back to hot, cold, several times. You can also, if you don't have a shower, do tubbing. So this is where you can put hands and feet, but feet's probably more practical, into a tub of cold water, and that can have a beneficial effect as well. What else? Skin brushing is incredibly helpful for the lymphatic system. You start with the soles of the feet and you brush upwards towards the heart and then down towards the heart. The skin brush is not a loofah. It actually has bristles, so you want to go for a natural bristle brush. And you don't want to overdo it. So skin brushing should be done maybe twice a week, but the body actually gets used to it, so you lose the benefit of it if you do it too often. So we've got hot and cold showering, we've got skin brushing, we've got sea swimming, we've got any kind of movement. The particular movement that's most beneficial for the lymphatic system is rebounding. You know, those little mini trampolines. I think normal trampolines will help as well. That kind of movement of rebounding really stimulates your lymphatics to clear. And then another point I want to make is about where the lymph drops into the blood. And this sounds terribly technical, but it's quite important. So we have the part of the lymphatic system that includes the whole of the body and the left ear, which drops into the left heart side. And then we have just the head and the right ear that drops into the right side. So I'm finding it really interesting that I've got slight irritation in my left ear, which is showing me that the most of my, the body part and the ear part dropping into the left side is a little bit gunky. It's not as healthy as it needs to be. And I need to dig in and use my diet as a tool to thin the lymph, to really clear and help to rebalance my system. Because remember, your lymphatic system is really about cleansing and detoxifying. And we all know when the system is cleansed and detoxified, we have better energy levels, we feel better within ourselves, and the body is generally healthier. You know, the lymphatic system is part of our immunity, our strength, our health. Okay, so what else? So I've talked about some naturopathic techniques, skin brushing, hot and cold showering, swimming in the sea. And and now I can, was there something else? Movement, exercise, anything like that is very stimulating to the lymphatics. I've talked about some of the symptoms that you can get, which is showing us that your lymphatic system is a little bit sludgy and needs a bit of support. So for me at the moment, I've got slight irritation in my left ear, which is indicating the left lymphatic duct is, you know, maybe a little bit cloggy. So right here is a really good point to push on. And that the right side is connected to right ear and just the head, but left side is connected to the whole body. So I need to be utilizing some of those naturopathic techniques I just mentioned. And then if we're looking at diet, of course, it's always about hydration. Your at least minimum 2 liters of warm water, maybe some cups of hot water coming in now. Warm, sort of lukewarm water means it doesn't have to be heated up in the stomach. It goes straight down to bowel, hydrates the bowel, and off you go. And remember, your bowel is your water reservoir. So the first sign of a problem is going to start in the bowel when we get dehydrated. And the reason we get so dehydrated is because we're living in a very modern dehydrating environment with air conditioning, computers, central heating, Wi-Fi, driving, flying, and all sorts of weird objects in space like satellite dishes beaming all sorts of stuff to us. So it's a dehydrating environment to live in. We also tend to rely on drugs. I call them drugs. They're not really drugs as such, but tea, coffee, which are diuretics. So they push fluid out of the kidneys. That is not good for your hydration picture. Herb tea is pretty much fine, slightly diuretic, so you don't want to live on herb tea. You want to make sure it's water that you're drinking. And obviously we do tend to resort to processed food, which doesn't have water in it. So being aware of what you're actually eating. Can you eat natural foods, lots of vegetables, some fruit, and lots of swollen food, such as quinoa, short grain brown rice, stews, soups, salads. I just made the most gorgeous butternut squash soup. And I really recommend just having cups of soup in the day when you're feeling peckish, because it's vegetables, so it's very alkalizing, and it's got a water content. As long as you're using stock that is organic and healthy, I tend to use callow, which is available from Waitrose, and it tastes really good. So those are that's the sort of diet you want. Obviously, fish, chicken, eggs are a great source of protein. Obviously, if you're vegan, inbox me for other suggestions. You know, you might be fine with pulses if your gut's okay. Want to be a bit careful with nuts and seeds. Soak them overnight and dry them out if you really want nuts and seeds, but keep them a little bit to a bare minimum, because they're quite hard on liver. They're very fatty, which doesn't make you fat, but it's just quite hard on liver sometimes. And when we're going through the change from summer to autumn, we really need to lighten up on what we're eating and drinking to really support our system in that changeover. I really don't recommend you party like a mad thing this weekend. You know, if you've got a social event, really try to implement these concepts that I'm talking about, and, you know, try to keep back on the alcohol, the excessive chocolate or things like that, because you will find that your body will react to it. It will cause your lymph to get more sluggish and gunky, and that can give rise to sore throats, the swollen glands I was telling you about earlier, possibly the ear infections and problems, and maybe even worse, tummy bugs and flu, and maybe some lung stuff happening, worsening of asthma, coughs, those kinds of things. So this is what we do need to be prepared for. And the thing is, as I've said before, is that when we move into autumn, our lymph naturally gets thicker. So it completely flips direction. And I always have to check. In the winter, so at the moment it's going this way. And then for the changeover into autumn, it flips direction and comes that way over. And to be able to do that flip, to do that changeover, requires a huge amount of wherewithal and energy. So if you're tired, run down, you've been working a lot, you've not been eating well, then this is a really pivotal point when the body will say, you know, it will show you, it will talk to you, it will show you through signs and symptoms of tiredness, anxiety, sore throats are very common, ear problems, all sorts of things like that that I've been describing. Okay, so that's the key thing for that. The other interesting symptom that you might get, and I get it sometimes, is you may get a confusion between your hunger and thirst. So how does that show itself? Well, often it shows itself as being kind of almost having cravings for things. So you might have been bumbling along where you are eating well and you're having your 3 meals a day, you're not really feeling the desire for snacks, and you're kind of, you know, doing pretty well with that. And then things start to change and you find yourself kind of thinking about food more, wanting more food, kind of having slight cravings. You may have really intense cravings, by the way, but you might just have, there just might be a slight change happening there. And what that means is when we are moving from summer into autumn, it is because there's this shift going on, it almost concentrates the toxins, you know, almost, it's not so much it concentrates them, but it provides more evidence. There's more evidence that your toxic load basically shows itself. It's more obvious when you've got any kind of energetic shift or changeover or seasonal changeover happening. And so this might be what's happening for you, is that when that shift is happening, there is a stronger requirement for water. There's a stronger requirement for you to get back into alignment with yourself, to get more sleep, to exercise adequately. Because if you're not doing that, it shows up more. You know, your body shows up that as a problem, as a symptom. And what happens is when we're dehydrated, we actually lose our thirst and we get confusion between hunger and thirst very often. So it's really important at this time to dig down into your hydration picture, to really access your hydration fully. Because what you'll find is if you don't, you will start to really struggle around wanting to eat when actually you don't really need to eat. You know, I'm not talking about when you're actually hungry. You know, if you're ready, you know, if it's lunchtime and you haven't eaten for 4 or 5 hours, of course you're supposed to eat. I'm talking about that sort of desire for food outside of that time when you're hungry. And really all it means is your blood sugar has dropped, which means your dehydration is showing up and your toxicity is showing up and it's dropping your blood sugar. So rather than rush for the food or the snack or the unhealthy snack, can you hydrate in that moment? So really hydrate. And the other point I want to make is that we're taught that breakfast is king, you know, that it's really important to have breakfast. But the old sort of naturopaths from many years ago, and certainly in my 30 years of working in this area, I cannot emphasize enough how beneficial it is to your system to not eat first thing in the morning, to actually delay eating by a couple of hours. So maybe have brunch, 10 or 11. 11 is an optimum time to eat. It might not work if you're working and your schedule doesn't work for that. But the idea is if you don't eat first thing, you can hydrate fully. You can really focus on hydrating fully. Because during the night, your body will have done a massive detox. You know, it will have been clearing out loads of gunk and you will have been getting quite dehydrated in the process of that. And if you then wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is have a cup of coffee and some, you know, cereal that's got wheat in it or some toast, you're blocking that detox process. And as soon as you block it, you're going to drop your energy. And then you're kind of on the back foot for the rest of the day. So what I'd really recommend, particularly at this time of the year, is to forego the idea of a heavy breakfast and to continue your hydration process through to the middle of the morning. So making sure you're drinking plenty of water, not more than 1 litre in 1 hour, but drink consistently the water. Make it lukewarm if you can, or room temperature is certainly okay. And then during that time, if you want to have a vegetable juice, you know, if you've got a juicer, that's a fantastic start to the day, or maybe an hour after you've woken up. that will tend to fill you up as well. And it will give you that very alkalizing benefit. It will help to detoxify the liver, because the digestive enzymes that not the digestive enzymes, the enzymes within the juice that are created from breaking down the juice and breaking down the vegetables and making it into a juice, actually has a purging effect on the liver. So you've got to drink the juice within a few minutes, and it really has this cleansing effect on the liver. So you can imagine, by not eating first thing, you're kind of giving the liver some time to clear its toxic load. And then at 11 or 12, you know, having a decent lunch or having some brunch is a really good time to eat. And then continuing to make sure that you're hydrating well and leaving a good 4 hours between meals if you can. If you need a snack in between that time, of course, have some vegetables, have some fruit, but just be aware that you don't really want to be eating loads of kind of heavy foods, heavy snacks at that time. So what you're doing is really lightening up your diet, easing up your diet, having a gentle, swollen diet to really assist with this changeover from summer into autumn, to really be able to, if you've got signs of toxicity, a little bit of a sore throat, which I have slightly, a little bit of an irritation with my ear, energy levels a little bit down, you can feel that your body wants to clear its toxic load. Help it. Don't shove it full of supplements and foods and all sorts of things. You can have the odd supplement if you want, but really use your diet as a tool to help this changeover process, help this cleansing process, and help you to tap in to that energy that exists within you, so that you can, you know, move into the autumn feeling healthy, feeling energized, able to complete your projects and your tasks without succumbing to lots of colds and flus and just that general sort of low mood that can happen when we're into autumn. I think that really is probably enough for you today. I hope it's kind of clarified for you if you've got any symptoms that are strengthening at the moment, that are making you feel really uncomfortable in your body. And hopefully it's given you some really good tips and tools to really navigate this crucially powerful time, which is going to make the difference between a healthy autumn and winter and a less healthy autumn and winter. If it all goes pear-shaped, don't worry, because you can still carry on doing this good work through autumn and winter and get yourself reset. But I just really wanted to pay attention, or bring your attention to this incredibly powerful time. And when we work with these universal influences and these seasonal shifts, when we work with them, we work in alignment with our planet and the universe, we will feel so much better. When we go against it and consume huge amounts of chocolate and alcohol and don't listen to the warning signs and the symptoms, they will get worse. And of course, if they get worse, then you go to the doctor, you want antibiotics, and you start this whole negative process on the body. So let's use these natural influences to get ourselves really healthy and on top of our systems and feeling really good. So I hope that's helpful for you. I'm going to sign off. If you need any help, you know to get in touch with me. Lovely to see you all.